Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Many refugees who've been camped outside the office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in Brooklyn, Pretoria, have been left stranded following a court order that they move. The Pretoria High Court has ordered that they relocate by this past Wednesday, while some were arrested and others went to the Lindela Repatriation Centre. Some say they don't know where to go. Our reporter Katleho Sekhotho is out there this evening. Katleho, very good evening to you. Some refugees saying they have nowhere to go. Very concerning. What's the latest?
If you answer it. Let me talk to you.
A very good evening, Paul. Indeed, I am here in the area of Katleho in Pretoria, where the residents that were camped out, or the refugees who were camped outside the UN offices in Brooklyn, have been moved to this particular spot. Now, it's an open area which has no facilities for them, and I understand from the Lawyers for Human Rights, they've been moved here, and the organization is saying they then will try to organize a means or a place for them to go. Now, before speaking to you now, I spoke to some of them who were literally just outlining the trauma that they feel at the moment, and some of them really saying that they can't speak at the moment. Some of them are hungry. There are babies here as well, young children, and it really remains a question of, now that they've been brought here by some organizations, where to from here? But there is also an issue about this wider area. There's a community here. People living around this open area have raised their concern about what happens to the people who've been brought here, because this is really an undignified space for people. It's not a living area. But I want to bring into the conversation here, Paul, the ward councillor of the area, Sean Wilkinson, just to speak to me about this developing story. Sean, thank you so much for speaking to us. We spoke earlier on about some of your concerns. Now that they've been brought here, what happens? And as a ward councillor, what messages are you receiving?
Thanks, Katleho. I think there's a lot of confusion. People don't know what's going on. The refugees don't know what's going on. The Lawyers for Human Rights don't know what's going on. The police don't know what's going on. The TMPD officers and officials don't know what's going on. The eviction happened in Waterkloof, and the refugees made their way along. We're kilometers away from Waterkloof. Some of them have walked here. Some of them are being delivered by the Lawyers for Human Rights. There doesn't seem to be a plan. It seems to be just an exercise of displacing them, and it becomes somebody else's problem. Whose problem is it? The residents here, the local businesses here, the university students. This is inhabitable. This is not a place where families, there's women and children here, there are babies like you mentioned. This can't be, when the Lawyers for Human Rights are trying, what are they trying? Are they trying to publicize their business, or are they trying to help the people? Because if you're helping the folks, you're going to give them a place to sleep, you're going to give them a place that's warm, you're going to give them something to eat, you're going to do more than that. We've got food banks, we've got social development, we've got all forms of departments and divisions that can actually assist, but there doesn't seem to be a plan. These are not commodities, these are families, these are people that need to be helped. So I've made a call to the acting chief of police of the TMPD, because now it becomes a TMPD issue. This is a bylaws issue. This is a different issue to the court order and the interdict that happened in Waterkloof. Wherever they are, whether they're next to the crawdaddies or whether they're on the side of the road, there are people scattered from Waterkloof to here, and you know it's kilometers. So this is, you're out, you're vulnerable. We've got to find them a better place to stay. If it means temporary, the Lawyers for Human Rights that I spoke to now haven't told me what temporary means. Is it for an hour or two, a day or two, a week or two, a month or two, or a year or two? You can't be telling me that you're going to temporarily, unless you have a plan where you've sat it down and you've worked out a strategy to help the folks. This is to me, these people are not litter. You're not just going to simply move them from one place, give them another place. There's people here with their equipment now to start building shacks. They're starting to build, they want to build a roof over their head in case it rains or the bad weather. So this just means we've displaced them from Waterkloof to Katleho, and it's going to be the same issue. We're not dealing, like you said when you spoke to them, we're not dealing with the people who you've met, whose names you have. We're dealing with just an anomaly of a concept of refugees and not the people. These are women and children, mothers. How do we fix that? So what I'm going to do, I've made a call to Basil Nkwashu, the acting chief. We've got another facility. There is a space quite close by. I'm trying to get hold of transport. I don't think we need to put people in the back of a truck. We need to move them in some buses. We need to find them a place that all these role players can actually take hands and find a better long-term solution for the situation.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much for that, Sean. I mean, you really have explained that. So what happens immediately for you as a community? What do you do now?
Everybody wants to reach out. Food. Have they eaten today? Have they had something to drink? Are they warm? It's just the needs that they might have. So we're coordinating on different levels about the officialdom and then the people. Right now I want to bring community into it. So if we're going to work with this community, this is a giving, generous community, but they need to know what's happening. Yeah. Their generosity can't be tested. It must be assured that this is, if the lawyers for human rights are saying it's temporary, we need that answer. In the meantime, I myself would like to believe that we rather make a better plan, and if no one has a plan, I've got a plan. I'll use my plan, and then I'll give them the comfort where I'm going to take them to. And I'll confirm that with you in a few minutes.
Thank you very much for that, Sean. Thank you. Mpho, there you heard it from Sean Wilkinson, the ward councillor of Makulnyuk here in Pretoria, outlining the interventions he wants to quickly make to address the situation. Obviously, the community here, differing views, some willing to help, some really concerned about the safety of the area and saying, you know, these people need to move. They can't just be left here because this is not a place for living. So really, it is a dire situation here for the refugees, and it remains to be seen what happens to them hereafter.
Absolutely, especially as the colder winter months start settling in. Being out there in the cold is going to prove very, very challenging, Katleho.
Absolutely, Mpho. You know, they were saying, even some of the refugees, how traumatized they are. They're hungry as well. So it's a matter of the weather. It's a matter of food. It's a matter of water. Where do they, you know, this is not a livable area. So it's an all-round big problem.
Very well. Katleho Sekhotho bringing us up to speed with some of those latest developments on the ground. We'll continue, of course, throughout the course of the next few hours to give you some insight on what's happening out there.